Hi everybody, my name's Collin, new to the Odds Jam team. I'm going to be providing some college football picks, analysis, and statistics to keep your eyes on throughout the weeks. Just to let you know, I've been betting on college football for about 5 years now, and I've enjoyed about a 75% winning average this season with a 30% ROI. So hopefully I can spread the love over to you guys. Hopefully you can make some money along with me. That being said, I'm looking forward to this opportunity, looking forward to working with you all. So without further ado, let's get into this week's picks. First game that I have up is Rutgers over Northwestern. So I had Rutgers, I saw it first at +1. It's available, I think, up to -3.5. I think that's where it's playable up to. Right now sitting at -2 for Rutgers, -108 on Barstool and Bet Rivers. And the total's at 45, which I think the over is in play. -110 at Bally and MGM. So the reason I think all this is because Rutgers has just been better in tough games. They've had 3 within the top 25 for team rankings, averaging a -21 point differential. Compare that to Northwestern's 2 games, that's a -33 point differential with a common opponent in Michigan State, and Rutgers played them much better. Key season statistics, so Rutgers is a -1.4 average score margin on the year, whereas Northwestern averages -11. And then if you look at the offense and defensive splits, so Rutgers' offense averages 327 yards per game, which is only 107th in the nation, but Northwestern's defense averages 522 yards per game allowed, which is good for 125th in the nation. Flip it on the other side, so you got Northwestern's offense, which is good for 65th in the nation, and then Rutgers' defense is 59th in the nation in total yards allowed. X factors is that there's no such thing as a home field advantage for Northwestern. I've been to Ryan Field actually for the Michigan State game this year. There's actually more opposing fans there than there is loyal home fans. So Northwestern has a -4 rating at home, which is 81st in the nation, and Rutgers is +14.4 rating away, which is good for 21st in the nation. Just really some road dogs over there. Next one I have is Nebraska -4. That's I think that's playable up to -5.5 over Minnesota, and I think right now the book summary is sitting at -4 at Barstool and Bet Rivers at a -108. You can get as low as -3.5 on FanDuel at 108 if you want to hop on that lower spread. The total is right now at 48. I think the under's in play here. It's -110 at most books, but if you go into DraftKings right now, they have it at a +100, so you can get even money back for that. The reason for this is I think Nebraska is just playing the best football. Probably in the Big Ten right now, just because if you look at the last 3 out of 4 games within the team ranking top 25, they've averaged a -4.3 point differential. They're barely losing these games. Most people are saying they're only a few plays away from being 6-1 rather than where they're at right now. Minnesota hasn't had any games inside the top 50 besides that Week 1 blowout loss to Ohio State. So if you factor all that in, the strength of schedule, so Nebraska actually has the 16th toughest strength of schedule, whereas Minnesota's had the 36th toughest, but it's 54th without the Ohio State game. Taking in some stats, so Nebraska's offense is 18th in yards per game, and Minnesota's defense is also 18th in yards per game. Nebraska's averaging 470 yards per game, and Minnesota at 308 on defense. Minnesota's offense is at 335 yards per game, which is a measly 103rd in the nation, and Nebraska's defense is averaging about 350 allowed, which is good for 34th. So I think overall, I think it's going to be a pretty high scoring game though, because Minnesota's awful at home, averaging a point differential of -13, and Nebraska is 2-1 away games against the spread. All right, next game I have Texas A&M -8.5 versus Mizzou. I also think that the over, I got the over at 60.5. But it looks like the total is down to 59.5. I think it's trending in the wrong direction. I think it's going to hurt Vegas and the bookmakers. They're at -110 for most books. And then if you look at the spread, it's starting to creep up to -9.5 for Texas A&M, which is a -108 for FanDuels, and most others are just behind it at 109. So key notes to keep in mind, Mizzou is 0-6 against the spread this year. Texas A&M is -3.3. And then Mizzou's defense allows 39.4 points per game. That's 120th in the nation. Texas A&M allows only 16.8 points per game, which is good for 15th. Mizzou's going to going to get about 33.6 points per game, which is 27th in the nation, so they know how to score. Texas A&M's offense is about 26.3 points per game, which is 67th in the nation. Keep in mind that the reason I like the over on this is that Mizzou has had 5 out of their 6 games go over 60 points. As a matter of fact, their totals average 75 points per game, putting a lot of stock in this over right now, especially with it trending the wrong direction. And I think the X factor here is that Mizzou is 99th in home advantage, so they're not performing that well at home. I think this game's going to get out of hand early, and Mizzou's still going to try to scrape and fight back. And I think also with being SEC football, they're going to be fighting until the very last play. Next game I have is Michigan State minus 4.5. Up to, I think, minus 6.5 is playable over Indiana. I think the under of 51.5 that I got it at was playable. Right now, the total is down to 48.5 at minus 110 at Bally and MGM. Caesars and FanDuel also have that same total as well. And the spread is moving towards Michigan State's favor. I see it at about a minus 5 right now. Best odds are at 105, minus 105 for MGM. Key performance notes here. So Michigan State is 4-1-1 against the spread, 3-0 away. Indiana is 1-4 against the spread and 1-1 at home. When it comes to totals, Michigan State's even at 3-3. Indiana is at 3-2. And then the under is favored when Michigan State plays the bad scoring offenses. So that's a key thing to note here, guys. So Indiana is ranked 121st in scoring offense. They played 3 other teams, Michigan State did, that were all right around 100. That's Northwestern at 98, Miami at 100, and Rutgers at 92. All of those unders hit. Michigan State's not a score to the final whistle team, so I think there's value even at 48.5, because I think Michigan State might try to put them down early. Because when you look at the two teams compared, Michigan State's offense is number 21st in yards, 17th in points, and Indiana's defense allows the 50 most yards and 88th most points per game. So combine that with MSU's defense, which only allows the 26th least points per game. They do allow quite a few yards per game, though, especially in the passing game. But I think with Michael Penix Jr. potentially being out, Indiana's been kind of quiet on that. If he's out, the under is going to be an absolute hit on this because the run defense for Michigan State is really just outstanding. And on top of that, Indiana's offense is 100th in yards per game and 121st, as I mentioned before, in points. So I think that even if Penix plays, he's playing with a separated shoulder in his passing shoulder, so that can impact his passing game. All right, last 2 games I have are kind of stretches, so bear with me here. So I have Liberty minus 32 over University of Louisiana Monroe. Right now, I'm starting to see the spread moving to minus 32.5. Minus 106 on Barstool and Bet Rivers. Keep in mind here, guys. So the performance notes is that Liberty is 6-1 against the spread. ULM is 1-3-1 with 3 losses by greater than 34 points. Liberty does one thing well, and they know how to win big. They average a 25.3 point differential in their victories. ULM, they also know how to lose big. They average a 40.1 point differential in losses. So you average that out together, I think it's really good for the line. I think Liberty has a really great team, have one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. They average 425 yards per game, which is 42nd in the nation. ULM allows 517 yards per game, which is 123rd out of 130 ranked teams. But Liberty's defense is arguably better than the offense. I mean, they only allow 15.8 points per game, which is 10th in the nation, and only 265 yards per game, which is 4th in the nation. So in ULM's offense, I just don't think they can hold a candle. I mean, they're 117th in points per game at 16.5 and 235 yards per game, good for 129. So I think it's going to be an absolute blowout. I wouldn't be totally surprised if Liberty pitches a shutout in this. And if you want next factor on this, Liberty is one of the better teams against the worst teams in the country. They're number 31 against teams that are ranked about 100 or 76 to 120. All right. Last call is going to be Miami plus 7.5 versus North Carolina. Guys, this is a total gut call. I just like what I see on it. Miami's coming off a bye week to develop that freshman quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke. He's a 4-star recruit with plenty of talent, and he almost brought Miami over that win over UVA. UNC's coming off a bad loss to Florida State, which can lead to a huge loss hangover. For example, like Michigan in 2006 when they lost to Ohio State, which seems to be pretty common for Michigan. And then losing the Rose Bowl to USC, and then losing the following 2 games to start the next season. So I don't really expect that out of North Carolina, but I do think that they could be a little worn down from hard week of practice and just the mental burden of losing to a team like that. So if you look at the stats, though, they're pretty even. I think they're much closer than the 7.5 line suggests. However, I'm going to give the edge to Miami due to the overall strength of schedule and overall game quality, especially against that UVA game. So if you're looking at the books right now, the line's staying at 7.5, and we're looking at -110 on MGM and some of the smaller books as well. All right, guys, that's it for week 1 of my picks for week 7. Let me know what you think about them. I hope that you win some money. I hope I win some money. Everything that I've talked about today, I've put my own money on. So we'll recap next week to see how I did, how you did, and we'll keep track of it throughout the weeks, and we'll see how we perform this season. So that being said, best of luck this weekend, and I look forward to looping back with you next week.